Hey, everybody. How's it going tonight? Welcome to the Patreon portal Q&A, the monthly Q&A where you guys ask your questions to Trev and Art. But today we have a really amazing surprise. We have a special guest. Some of you guys already know who he is. Some of you guys had seen him on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour when I had him as a guest there, and I'm going to put that link in the chat right now. Tyler Ellison is with us. He's a fellow channeler, an amazing dude, all around cool guy. And he's here with us tonight to hang out. How's it going, brother?
Rob, it's going good. Thanks so much for having me on again. It's fantastic to be able to reconnect like this. And I've been good, man. Just rolling with the new changes. I feel like these times have been very transformative with all the retrograde energy and changes in the collective. So just do my best to maintain solid rooting and to continue shining for both myself and other people in the community as well.
Well, you do that too, brother. I love how you do that. Something about your energy has motivated a lot of people who check out your work. Just for me, getting to know you more and more personally, even if I don't listen to 1 minute of your channeling, just chatting with you and talking to you, you have that kind of energy. I wasn't surprised to find out that you were a Leo because you have a very warm personality, a very open personality and energy. And that resonates with me too. I know I got I think I have a moon in Leo somewhere. Maybe a moon. I can't remember. But yeah, your energy is just really welcoming and really lovely. And everybody here, hello. I want to say hi, Chuck. Hello, Corinne. Hello, Kara. Hello. Are you guys doing well tonight? Drop in the chat if you guys are doing well. But thank you for being here, brother. Like I said, that personality and warming and your channeling brings great insight too. I don't listen to a lot of channeling, but when I hear yours, I always resonate with it, and that doesn't always happen with me when I listen to other people's channeling. Not in a bad way. It's just things resonate or they don't. But yours has always done that, so I really love it.
Oh, thanks. It means a lot. It means a lot coming from you. So I appreciate that, Rob. Thanks.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nate Zim, hello, guys. How's it going? Yeah, I know, Karen. I'm sorry. I'm not too brilliant as usual. I can't read my own name half the time. When we go through this every month too. I butcher at least a third of everyone's name in here. I'm sorry about that. Oh, how's it going, everybody? William couldn't make it tonight, as you guys, if you guys watched last night's Enlightenment Evolution Hour, he said he was going out in the woods. He's got his ATM to attend to out in the middle of nowhere for the concert, the music festival that's going on for this week. So he wasn't able to join us. But as you guys also know, the person who is here tonight instead of William is an amazing dude himself. So I want to know from you guys too. How would you guys like to get like a bonus channeling tonight, like a whole other channeling besides the Q&A channeling? I bet most everybody here would be pretty damn happy to hear that, see that, feel that, connect with that, all of that.
Yeah, I would say people are probably pretty stoked for that. That sounds like something most people would be excited for.
Yeah, and this fun a delay too. I always appreciate the delay. We're about 30 seconds. There we go. We're coming in now. Yeah. Well, it's beautiful, guys. Yeah. See, Chuck already knows the deal too. All right, guys. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that in a few minutes. But I want to see what you guys are up to. See what's going on. Anything new in your life? What's the theme of your life been in the last month? Earthly human things, higher consciousness channeling things, anything like that? What's been up? And for you, Tyler, what's up with you? What's up with you new in the world, both earthly and heavenly?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of stuff. I mean, it has been a time where I think with some of the retrogradal energies and solar flare energies, I went through a whole like alternate reality experience. The only thing I can say about it is the shift and acceleration I went through spiritually sort of unrooted me and flipped my world upside down, and then planted me back into my world. And it's kind of been a time of letting go and releasing, and letting go of excess, and discovering how to be content with greater levels of simplicity and with the common things that oftentimes get taken for granted. I mean, the last since our last talk, Rob, it's definitely been a wildly transformative experience. So now I've been mainly focusing on how to be of service to people in ways that are more authentic to me, and finding more of my own voice. I think that's been a really powerful thing, because I think sometimes doing channeling, I get wrapped up in the persona of the entity, if that makes sense. And what I realized is, like, there's the Tyler Ellison behind that persona, and then working to discover more of who that is. That's been a big theme recently. And yeah, yeah. And then I mean, there's been many other themes too. I mean, it's kind of an exhaustive list, so I don't want to just belabor it here. But yeah, man, just working on, in a big way, not picking up the tools and paradigms of old realities, like not working with old crutches, learning to let that go, and learning how to be more lightweight in my approach to life. I mean, those have been probably the biggest things I've been focusing on recently.
I love that. That's beautiful. That's something that channelers have can have a difficult time. And sorry, I did have to turn on my phone for a second, so when it's beeping, forgive me, guys. That whole thing is a definite hardcore energy for a lot of channelers. Um, Even trance channelers, even highly conscious channelers, and the ones in between, they go on to that energy where, I've had, how many people have called me Treb or Ardif, they're like, hey, how's it going, Treb? And I'm like, eh. And I hear almost everyone call Daryl Anka Bashar. There's just so much energy that goes through you. It becomes a part of you. Even with my own way I speak now. I used to speak with a lot of disregard for the words I chose. I just spit it out as quick as it would come. And now I find myself being more careful about the words I say, choosing them. And I find even language patterns of art if transferring to my own energy when I'm speaking sometimes. And it's really weird how that energy just kind of amalgamates those two different consciousnesses into your own energy and your own field. And I've heard a lot of fellow channelers talk about that feeling of getting a little bit lost in themselves and not finding that divisionary line between themselves and the consciousness that they bring forward and channel. So, finding your own voice as you, and finding your own way to help and guide others, to be of service to others, to share with others, and do that from that perspective. That's huge.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was very new to me. So it feels like it's grounding now, which is good. And we'll see where it goes. I mean, the main approach I've been taking is the approach of surrendered action. So putting positive actions forward, putting positive intentions forward, uh, and letting life reveal to me what those next steps are. So if anything, it almost feels like my life went from like a bullet train to like a person, like walking almost in slow motion. So it's been a bit of a different vibe, but yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to reflect upon that. It's good.
That's amazing. The feeling of that great of a shift, and that's been happening with me too. Just like a week ago, for some reason, I felt like a switch turn on in me, and it was really weird. This whole shift of energy. I'm not very accustomed to these types of things. You know what I mean? I'm a very um, I don't know a nice way to say it, but I'm a very ritualistic, very very expectable, and very boring kind of guy. Sometimes I usually just kind of do what I do, and that's it. And there's not a lot of wiggle room for movement. There's always growth, personal growth, mental growth, things like that. But it just my system of operations are always really similar. No matter what I'm doing, it just kind of reflects on something, and something comes in, and that reflects back to me, and I process it differently. But the outside world looking in would say, yeah, this guy's pretty predictable, right? But this energy has just switched inside of me that's made me feel real different lately, like extra motivated to get those things that I'm passionate about up to the surface, because I'm always in a desire mode. I'm always like, hey, I really want to freaking do something different and something new, or take what I do love and already do and shift it up and make this co-creation. Like me and you have been talking about doing an event for a couple months, and I really haven't had the opportunity to even think about what we could do and all those things. But the last week or so, I just feel that knob getting twisted, like, hey, it's go time, let's get these things put together. I know part of that's Metatron's energy as I channel him more recently, but also that feeling of drive is not just the Metatron, because I know when his drive energy comes through, it's something different. I don't know what it is, but I know it's there. Just recognizing it is a pretty important thing too. Also, hello, Joe Grace. I see you. I see you joining us. Hello. But yeah, but this bullet train feeling of energy that you were talking about. Is there any themes within that energy, even though you feel more moving and more quickness going on with your energy? Is there like sub themes that are inside of that?
Sure. Well, it went from, so the good question. So it went from this type of bullet train acceleration to a type of slow motion. The bullet train energy, I think, related to a few things that I was exploring. So I had developed through accessing altered states and magical practice my own system of, I was calling it ET hybrid magic. And I was regularly working with this, and I was teaching people this, and it was like it had a whole life of its own, and it was accelerating everything that I was doing. And it was so much energy and momentum that I almost couldn't keep up with it. And I sort of had to ground myself and stabilize and take time to go back to the basics of some of these systems that I got into, that inspired this sort of hybrid ET magical system. And that is what prompted sort of this slow-mo vibe. And I was also, I think, what was connected to that uprooting, So I think that when I got really deep into that work, that channeled system that I had been playing with, it was very astral. Like it was almost like I was seeing the astral plane overlaid on top of the physical reality. And as a result, my life almost started to feel unreal, started to kind of take on this cinematic quality. Like I was watching a movie on top of my normal reality. And
That's
it got
amazing.
yes. And there's some stuff I can tell you later too, because it's a huge story. But and I think it is amazing too. It led me into, how would I put it, becoming different characters within that movie. And some of those characters were very positive. Some of those characters were also quite negative. It almost was like I started assuming different roles within my psyche, and it unleashed so much and exposed me to so many different personas within me, that it led me to that place I'm in now that we were talking about, where it's like, well, who am I in all of this? After all of these personas, after all of these perspectives, after all of these different roles I had been playing, it's like, who is the person behind all of the masks? And I would say that's the biggest sub theme that I've been playing with now. And working to find and striving to find, what is the direction that nourishes me? Is that system where my energy should go into? Is more of channeling that direction? Is, practicing natural medicine? Is that the direction? So I'm working on finding which directions are the ones that nourish me. And I think when I was younger, I used to feel like there was like one path, right? There was like there's one path of destiny. And for a while I was like, channeling's definitely that for me. or esotericism is definitely that for me, or medicine is that for me. And now I'm at a place where I almost don't know what to choose. You know what I mean? I feel like I've been so reset from all of this. I almost feel as if I don't know exactly what I want anymore. So this is the big sub theme has been reconnecting with the self and really understanding, like, what do I want out of this life? And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at right now with all of this.
Well, that's beautiful. I mean, that road itself, it is filled with all the right questions that you need to be asking yourself anyway. This is my thought, at least. It's right for me. Um, how can you start doing the things that you want to the most with the most energy, but also the whole concept of the overlay. I like that. I've never had that happen, but I've heard people talk about that, and I've always felt very excited about that, almost envious at some level when they have these realities overlapping. Now, I can sense a lot of that when it happens, feeling multiple timelines kind of caving in on each other, or having this energy of the possibilities outcropping, starting to go outward from one another. And that's always exciting and frightening at the same time.
Wow.
These characters that are presented to you, though, you said that some of them are really positive and some of them are really great, but what about these negative ones? What about the ones that are like not so good?
Yeah. Oh man. By the way, I gotta say, this is refreshing. One of the first people I've mentioned this to, and you know what I'm talking about. I'm actually like mind blown. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I came to the right place tonight. So, yeah, some of these. Okay, so some of the roles I would take on. I mean, there was one role, like there was one timeline I accessed where I was like essentially one of 3 extraterrestrial beings that had like taken control of Earth. And there was like a negotiation that was being worked out between myself and these other beings. It had to do with being able to essentially like draw power psychically from the electrical grid. It was almost as if I had become a being that had merged their nervous system with like the power grid itself. The power grid being a symbol for humanity's collective power. So that was one of the roles I had shifted into. And this version of myself was so detached from human emotion and from human values and from human morals. And it was like terrifying, and in a certain sense, I mean, it was like really powerful on one level. Like it was like an intoxicating amount of power. But on another level, it was making me really quickly discard important relationships actually in my life. So when I would, timeline surf into these different realities, like I would pretty much fully become whatever the character in that timeline was. And when I first began it, there was like a lot of lucidity. Like I, as Tyler, was very present. But the more I went down that path of surfing these different realities, the more I started to lose myself in those versions of myself that I would essentially visit and merge with. But that's an example of one of the negative ones. And I don't know if I would call that one, I mean, I would call it somewhat negative. It seemed like, it just seemed like a reality that I don't think people on Earth would have chosen if it were up to them, if that makes sense. Like it seems like kind of like alien invader type of reality. That's the vibe I would give it, but that's an example of one of the negative ones.
That's beautiful. I love your energy within your malleability, because you've always been able to go with the flow. This is something that, like I said, I have an envious part of me for that. Not in a bad way. Not that I wished that I was and not happy with what I am, but more like, damn, that sounds awesome to be able to connect with that. But I've heard you talk about your own malleable energy a lot, how you can just kind of connect to these energies and go with the flow. I remember when we were talking after the radio show, about a week after that, you had told me about the experience of just allowing yourself to go with this insight that you had, that was kind of like badass, and then you went into one that was really mellow and just kind of let yourself go with the flow with all these energies. And I really found that appreciative of you. for being able to do that. Because a lot of people don't really, they might feel something like that, and it's like, no, I can't go with that. That's not who I am. That's not what I am. That's not how I am, because they've got the preconceived story in their head. So that's always something that's been really amazing. And before I have you respond to that too, I want all of you guys, I asked if you don't care if we make this public, or if you want to share. Most of you seem that it's okay to go public. And you don't mind it going public, I imagine, Tyler?
No, I think that would be actually kind of fun. It would probably bring a lot of people to this event. So I'm on board with that.
All right. Well, I'm keeping the thing open for 45 seconds for anyone who objects about sharing, because we are going to do some questions with Ryoka, and we're also going to do the regular Q&A that you guys have already submitted. So no one will be able to have the opportunity to ask Trevor Ardif questions, so that you guys know that your questions will get answered there. And I will make sure to prioritize all of the energies there too. I also wanted to tell you, Tyler, that I ended up sending you a private message. William had a question tonight, and believe it or not, guys, William does pay for Patreon every month. Even though he's still here hosting it, he does. So his question is going to get answered tonight too. Let me see. I'm going to finalize this because we do the questions randomly. When Trev and Ardif come, Tyler's got your guys' questions, and I've already shared with him to please do those randomly without any specific order or anything. All right, so there we go. I got that sent to you too, brother. All right, no objections, no objections. Okay, all right, guys, I'm making it public. So give me a second. I'm gonna let you kind of respond to that too, about how malleable you allow yourself to be, and how do you do that though? I mean, what do you do when you're doing that? I mean, how can you kind of just go with the flow when you feel these new inspirations or energies?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that for me, the biggest thing is giving myself permission to express what comes through. So I find that for myself, I'll feel the desire to express something first and foremost in my body, and making sure that my body is in a state where it can respond to those energies in the moment, and making sure my body is in a state where it can perceive those energies as they come is essential. So I find that if the body gets locked into a certain type of routine or a certain type of pattern, that doesn't allow energies to flow, it can make that malleability more challenging. So for me, like for accessing the malleability, doing energy work, different types of meditational practices, specifically from Taoism, I found that to be very useful, because that keeps all of the energy channels super clear and super open. I find that eating in a way that allows for the body to remain very light is also important. There was a while where I was doing a lot of fasting, where I was essentially just eating like bone broth soups with like ghee, and like I was just like living off of like minimal things. All of that really helped me. I don't recommend it for everybody, but those types of approaches of making sure the body is light, that can be really essential for it. I think another thing that really helped me too was giving myself permission to go on spiritual voyages, to go on spiritual retreats, to sort of let myself explore the inner and outer realities to the best of my ability. So a lot of my, I would say, malleability really came from saying yes to unexpected directions and saying yes to things that really excited me. Like there was a period of time where I had said no to a lot of the things that had excited me, and to the people that I knew were a part of my path. And that's when I found myself kind of getting locked into the same character. When I stopped saying yes to those things that were inspiring, when I stopped saying yes to those things that I knew were a part of my path, it started to feel like I just kind of became the same old person on loop or repeat. But when I started saying yes to inspiring things and things that were nourishing my spirit, that's when it felt like the malleability really increased. I think exposure to different types of people can also be useful. Exposure to different types of sources and teachers. Really, I think that these things are key. Another thing too, this is actually, I want to give like the most basic one, because this is one I want to get back into, because I usually return to this to enhance the malleability of my own consciousness. And this is just dancing, like just straight up putting on like trance music or something inspiring and just letting yourself dance. This will also increase malleability, because really with dancing, you're just taking the vibrations of the music that you love and you're letting that channel and flow through your body. And it's like the more we can take those creative impulses and let those things flow through our body, the more we can allow for our consciousness to be malleable and to increase in its plasticity, so it can adapt and shift and change as needed, in the moment. So those are some of the things that I would suggest. I know it's probably long-winded, but I've never had anyone ask me that before. So it's kind of like scanning into my own mind to see like how I've accessed those states. But those are the things that I would say I've done to be able to access those dimensions of my own consciousness.
Well, I love that. Yeah, and don't worry about being long-winded. We got a lot of people who are genuinely interested in how they can make themselves more open. And I did want to let all of you guys know, a bunch of people have jumped in since we made this public. This was not originally a public thing. This is the 31st. We normally do our 15th and 30th Patreon extra channelings. The first one on the 15th is our poll. We let everyone suggest some topics, and then we put them in a poll, and then they vote, and then whichever one wins gets channeled about in depth. And then on the 30th, we normally do the Q&A, which you get all month to send in your questions to Trev and Ardif. But today, we had a special guest, and the special guest is who you just heard talking, Tyler Ellison, who's also a channeler, who's also an amazing dude, who also has been on the Enlightenment Evolution Hour, and he's here with us tonight. And the genuinely generous people who pay to get in to see these channelings monthly on the Patreon wanted to share this with you, because it is such a special night to have. Because it's not just having Tyler come on and being a part of this like William and Kalina do, but he's also going to be doing some channeling for us tonight, guys. So I think it's really awesome that you guys are here to see this and to connect. And we welcome everybody here. Welcome, everyone. Tyler, can you give yourself a quick introduction for some people out there who might not know who you are? Maybe about 5 minutes worth of introduction, and then I have to step away from the computer for about 2 minutes. So if you just want to share for about 5 minutes who you are and a little bit about your channeling and stuff, then when we get back, we can start taking questions from your channeling. And then when you're done with that, I can channel also.
Yeah, perfect. That sounds great.
Thank you, brother.
You got it, Rob. Absolutely. So everybody, yeah, thank you so much for being here. It's great to be able to connect with you in this way. Each time I connect with Rob's audience, it is always an exciting adventure. I love the questions that get asked, and yeah, I'm pumped to be able to connect with all of you. So a little bit about myself. So I started channeling in 2014, and I didn't know I was going to be channeling entities. I originally started because I wanted to create a novel. I wanted to create a story that involved essentially government agents and extraterrestrials. And during this process where I'm working on this story, I essentially had writer's block, and I put the story down for a little bit. And during this time, I was getting certified in Reiki. I was practicing energy healing and working with crystals and other shamanistic tools. And I had this dream following a Reiki activation that I got, where I essentially was being healed and was being guided by these two beautiful feminine beings of light. And they filled me with this powerful unconditional love that literally I woke up with in the dream. The dream just transitioned from dream world into waking state, and this powerful feeling of unconditional love was like the boat that I was sailing in as I woke up, if you will, metaphorically speaking. It was like this love wave just carried me immediately into wakefulness, and it was such a powerful experience. It almost reminded me of how people would describe their near-death experiences. Like the feeling of love's just so great, you almost don't want to go back. But also the feeling of love is so powerful, it makes you appreciate everything in your life. And when I was hit with that feeling, I immediately wanted to know who these beings were. I wanted to know why I had that dream. So I had begun, prior to that, channeling, as I had said with that story, I was taking, was sort of listening to channeling lectures online. So I took that information and then used it to channel the energy of these beings that I had made contact with in the dream. And I was super impressed with the information that came forth. So I just kept practicing. I started using different symbols to connect with beings from different civilizations. I started working with the Pleiadians first. I would meditate on symbols connected to their world. And then I would channel, Pleiadian consciousness. I would do my best to tap in, feel its energy, and then bring it through. And I started getting a lot of intuitive hits. Like the first being I channeled from the Pleiades was called Mira. And then I got on Google and found out that other people had channeled this same entity called Mira as well. And I had never heard of this being prior to that. So I knew what I was tuning into had some validity behind it, had some accuracy behind it. So I just kept practicing. And during this time period where I'm practicing channeling, going deeper into it, I start having essentially UFO encounters. I was in Connecticut, in the USA during this time, and saw with people triangular, craft with multiple witnesses actually. And that got me, thinking about, okay, maybe there's a grounded dimension to this. Maybe all of this isn't just in the astral plane. Maybe some of this actually has a physical component to it. So a few years go by and I joined this Sasani channeling group on Facebook. And I work with this group to make contact with beings from the Sasani. And the Sasani are a hybrid species. They are genetically human and they're genetically gray blended together. And I started working with this group to access these beings. And sure enough, a being came through, and he originally gave me the name Ryoka to describe him, to identify him. And I continued to work with Ryoka for a few years, and that became Ryoka over time. And then Ryoka became Ryo, and that's what I had been channeling up until recently. And now Ryo has evolved, you could say, into Ryoka, representing the higher dimension of Ryo's consciousness, Ka representing the ascended, immortalized body or vehicle of light, similar to the Ka body that you find in Egyptian esotericism. So Ryoka represents this next level of Ryo's consciousness. But that's a short description of my story. There's, of course, a lot more details to it, but that's how I got involved with channeling. It originally was through writing, and then it sure enough led into some powerful experiences that are still unfolding in my life to this day. I mean, this process is, as far as I can tell, far from over. It's still, manifesting in ways that astonish me and inspire me.
That's beautiful, brother, and thank you for sharing that. And the evolution of Ryo into Ryoka. Can you share briefly on that before we get started on the channeling with Ryoka?
Yeah, absolutely. So that change started happening when I was going through this reality shifting experience, where I was sort of surfing these different timelines and was seeing them overlaid on top of my physical experience. It got to this point where I was going through these different roles, these different archetypes. I was like filtering them through my own body, my own consciousness. And the same thing started happening with him. the entity, like he went through some dramatic changes. I got to see like his shadow come out, which was crazy to think of, like an ascended being, right? It's like, well, how does an ascended being have a shadow? And it's like, well, does a bird in the sky cast a shadow on the ground? It's like, well, absolutely it does, right? So, so I got to see like his shadow come out too. And all of this was just happening at once. And as I started to, stabilize and integrate and land, so did he. But it was crazy working with these sort of altered versions of Ryo, because he, at a certain point, almost became, what's the word? It was almost like he embodied the quality of a trickster, where he would like speak in like, I don't even want to say parables. A person described it well when they were exposed to his energy. They were like, it's like he's giving out crazy wisdom. Like, yeah,
I like
yeah,
that.
yeah, totally. And that's how it felt. And it stayed that way for a while. But now the shift has mainly been learning how to let go of what is excessive, and learning how to bring with one that which is essential for the journey. Because with Ryoka's energy, there's this sense of aviation, there's this sense of flight, there's this sense of venturing into new lands, there's this sense of appreciating the subtlety in life, and recognizing that each choice that we make is valid, but it's also a living symbol. And as we become aware of the symbolic actions that we're taking, we can start to guide how the reality unfolds and manifests. So the change for me was really a change that came from letting go of some of those villainous roles I had slipped into, and then a returning to more of myself. And that kind of had this sort of rebirth phoenix quality to it, I would say. Something like that, almost like a bird being born from the ashes. And that's where I felt more of his energy come through. Because when he was going through that type of trickster phase, a lot of people were like very caught off guard. They were like, what is this energy? I don't even know how to make sense of it. And people were like blown away. They're like, what does this even mean? Like, is this even the same entity? And then at a certain point, it stabilized. And I remember the person he was talking to was immediately like, oh, I can feel your heart. I can feel like the love here. I know this is good. And then it was like, the door just opened and more of his energy started pouring out. So it's still a new energy to me. To be totally transparent, I am still discovering it, but that's how I came into contact with it. It was like deep shadow integration and parallel reality shifting, and then bam, like new reality. Here it is. Like, discover what's there.
That's absolutely fascinating to me. And the concept behind the beings that we channel transforming and kind of going through their own process of growth and expansion. A lot of people don't even think of that. And something that's been really amazing to me, from my perspective, has been something that Ardif said, because I never even considered that as an idea or a possibility. But Ardif, actually, I think Treb first said it, and Ardif piggybacked from what Treb said. But Treb told one person, they're like, they said something to the effect of, Treb, I really love you, and I get so much from talking to you, but I wish that there was something that I could give you, because I feel so grateful for connecting. And what Treb said is, you're asking these questions to me, which allows me to look at your energy and reflect back something within your energy field that I never had the possibility of looking at before. And when I do that, basically, it gives me the chance, because we're all linked up and connected together, to look at something inside of my own energy that I never had a chance to see before. And that's why and then he would say something like, hey, congratulations for your growth from reflecting and talking to us, reflecting back from yourself. And thank you for helping us grow. And that blew my mind. I never thought that these simple conversations with us simple humans, because that was the mindset I had back then, were actually doing something for. So do you think that that might have been some kind of progression with Ryo before that kind of helped him go through that transition phase into Ryoka, in that communication, connecting with humans, working with humans, channeling through you, and all of that?
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. Because I think from the perspective of the entity, their interactions with us are incredibly multidimensional. Because to us, they're sort of these invisible thought forms for the most part, right? Like we're like, that's why we need channels usually to act as an intermediary so we can connect with them. But I think to these entities which exist within, the astral plane and beyond, when they look at us, I have a feeling that we are incredibly technicolor and vibrant and vivid and alive, right? Just vibrating with light. When they're able to see us, I think they're able to see us in, I would almost describe it as a psychedelic multidimensionality. So I think that when they have these interactions with us, when we go into the channeling state and bring them through, they're able to glean so much wisdom and so much energy, from the experience. And there's also the sharing of their energy, because when we're channeling them, we're projecting their energy through the throat chakra, and that is then making contact with all the different people that we're channeling for, either directly during the conversation or indirectly through people listening to the recordings. And all of that expands their consciousness. And because they're energetic beings, for the most part, they have at least an expanded energetic perspective. It's my belief that they can enter into the worlds of the people they're making contact with through the channeling. So it's almost like each person is like a country, and they're able to be like a tourist when they're interacting with that person. They can experience a great deal of information. And it's my belief that our experiences, both internally and externally, shape us in different ways, at least the superficial dimensions of us and the intermediate dimensions of us. So I think that with these interactions that the channeled entities have with humanity, they for sure change. And I think the more we go through as channels, the more evolution and changes our entities go through. I think that's why Ryo went through so many dramatic changes, because that's what I was putting myself through. And I think because we have this type of soul link or soul bond, it was definitely, having a great impact on his energy. So yeah, I think that, yeah, his interaction with both myself and the people I was channeling for, and my own alterations to my own reality through magic and esoteric practice, definitely assisted him in his transformation from Ryo into Ryoka.
I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that too.
Yeah.
How you feel about doing some channeling? We can do some channeling here. Ryoka can share some information, and maybe we'll take a few questions from people in the chat, and then after that, you can hang out with everybody while I get ready to channel and rock and roll and do a 2 for 1 night.
Yeah, that sounds great to me. Um, sure. So for the question part, will you be reading those questions to me while I'm in the state?
Yeah, absolutely. I will
Okay.
be right there with you the whole time, and then when you get done, you can hang out with everyone while I get ready, and then we'll reverse the roles.
Yeah, sounds perfect. All right. Well, I
All
am.
right. Thank you, brother.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thanks for having me on, and thank you everybody for being here with us. So
Yeah, and can I let everybody know too, if you have a question for Ioka, please put them in the chat. If it goes too long, I won't be able to read it all, so make it short, concise, and try to make them more collective questions. You can make them somewhat personal if it applies to other people, but try to make questions that are going to serve the most people with that too, and just put them right in the chat. We'll read them from there.
awesome. Great, great. Well, I will see you all when we're finished, and enjoy the conversation with Ryoka. I hope you have a great time, everyone. right, it is with great joy and passion that we say hello to you all through this channel this evening of your time. In this evening's transmission titled The New Beginning, we shall talk to you all about the process of reinventing the self, reinventing one's life, reinventing one's direction. For remember that in each and every single moment, you are brand new. You create the experience of continuity, of being the same person, moving through linear time. But we remind you that time is like a flowing river. And when you step into that river, you are technically no longer in the same position, for the river is made up of water. That is what defines a river, the water within. And as soon as you have stepped into the river is no longer the same. You are no longer in the same place within the river, for the water itself has moved and changed locations. And you are like this. You are like flowing water, always changing, always transforming. There is the dimension of you that is stable, that is unchanging, and that is what you consider to be the I am presence. That is what you consider to be the eternal self that you are, that has always been. Some traditions refer to this as what is called the Atman. This dimension of you is unchanging, and it remains the foundational dimension of your consciousness from one incarnation to the next, to the next, to the next. Yet, all of the other levels of your consciousness experience change, experience growth, experience transformation, experience adaptation. And when you allow for yourself to feel this fluid dimension to your consciousness, you can begin to surf those waves of transformation and change. We'll talk about it like this. When an individual feels as if they are stagnant, when an individual feels as if they are not really moving, they are not really adapting, they are not really going with the flow of life, it is usually because they have created a disconnect from the breath. For it is the breath that mirrors the water element, even though the breath, for many of you, is equivalized with the element of air. You can clearly see parallels to the element of water. For example, the inhale is like the tide coming in, and the exhale is like the tide coming out. And as you allow for yourself to connect with your breath, you allow for yourself to connect with that element of fluidity, that element of change, that element of transformation. It is the breath that, when guided through present moment awareness, synchronizes the entire body. As you know, your brain and your heart emit electromagnetic frequencies that can be entrained, that can be synchronized. And when you align with the breath, you calibrate the electromagnetic frequency of your body so it is more in tune with that present moment experience. And that is what allows for you to begin to feel the freshness, the fluidity, the novelty that is intrinsic to the flow of time, the flow of life, the flow of existence. When you allow for yourself to take that flow and express it in different ways, that novelty will then shine into your life. In order to use that novelty to create what we have described as the new beginning, you must allow for yourself to do things within your life that are new, that are unexpected. This might have to do with changing your wardrobe. This might have to do with changing whom you spend your time with. This might have to do with changing your thinking. This might have to do with changing how you use your body. The idea is, when you allow for yourself to make structured changes to your life, it is as if you become a different character within the story or within the movie of your life. So what we would advise for you all is play around with something new that you can really sink your feet into. Play around with novelty so you can experience freshness and change within your reality and life. If there is something in your life that feels stagnant or stuck, ask yourself, what is something I have never done in this situation? What is something I have perhaps always have wanted to do in this situation, but have not allowed for myself to do? And take time to implement those new changes. And you'll start to see that you become a new person, because the person that you experience yourself to be is made up of a few different layers, and we'll explain those layers. The person you experience yourself to be is made up of the thoughts that you think, which with repetition become beliefs. The person that you experience yourself to be also is created through the different emotional states, the different feeling states that you frequent and find yourself in. And the most defining layer, the most defining level of the person that you create yourself to be is the action level, the physical level. So what we would advise is take new actions in your life to open new doors, to reveal new dimensions of yourself. For remember, you are that unchanging, eternal Atman that we mentioned. And you can think of that Atman as the God of 1,000 faces. For in each moment, it is as if that Atman puts on a specific mask that is designed by those 3 levels that we mentioned: the thought level, the feeling level, the action level. So when you start to make greater levels of change on those 3 levels, the type of mask that you put on shall also shift, shall also change. And all of these masks are the different chapters of your experience. For your life is like a grand story, and you are the hero or heroine within that story moving forward. And as you know, the hero and heroine will go through many transformations, will go through many points of growth. And it is the experiences of life that cause those transformations and shifts to happen. So you are this. And these characters that you experience yourselves to be, these masks that you experience yourselves to be wearing, while they are not the fundamental you, they are essential to connect with in order to understand the story that you are weaving across multiple levels of reality. For remember, it is the oversoul that is like a master storyteller. It is the oversoul that is the author, you could say, of the many characters that are the souls. Think of the oversoul as a master level story creator who dreams up the many characters that are the souls. And the lifetimes of the souls, these are the storybooks that the souls exist within. Yet all of these different storybooks that are the different lifetimes of the different souls are all interconnected. They are all a part of a multi-dimensional story that you could say the higher self of the oversoul is creating and is crafting. So as you begin to understand these many characters that you shift through, that you move through in your own life, you will begin to understand more of that soul level of yourself. And as you understand more of the soul level, you will understand more of the oversoul level. And from the oversoul level, you'll begin to understand more of that higher self level of the oversoul, or what we have referred to as the meta soul, that which is beyond the concept of soul altogether. So we're sharing this with you all because you are now moving into your new season of Virgo. You are in many ways starting a new chapter. You are moving into your month of September. So this is a time of new beginnings. This is a time of taking new actions. For, as you know, Virgo is an earth energy. And it is that earth energy that is most greatly connected to the action level. So this is a time to begin to take new actions. This is a time to begin to take new directions in your life that can allow for you to open new doors that are connected to your goals, that are connected to your dreams, that are connected to your process of healing and your process of opening your heart to connect to your human family in new ways, in exciting ways that unify and uplift. We thank you all for receiving this information, and we make ourselves available to you for your questions.
Thank you, Ryoka. That was beautiful sharing, and the insight from that is usable on a ton of levels. I do have some questions here from the collective here that we've got. One of them is, please ask Ryoka about the DAO I'm creating with the Dune Da Ni. What would they like to share and co-create? And a little bit about the DOA. It's an acronym for Decentralized Autonomous Organization.
Sure. All right. So there are a few things we would like to ask in relationship to this. Is this specifically a technology that exists physically, or is this more of an astral thought form that is designed to manifest within the physical reality in some type of way?
From what I understand, one of the channelings I've recently done with a partially humanoid and partially artificially intelligent consciousness, this person resonated with and put it into the GPT, which is basically an artificial intelligence that helps build code. And the idea behind this program is to pay people through these automated tokens to help people learn knowledge that will help them grow, spiritually grow. So it's an incentivized way to get the earth to lift its consciousness, raise its vibration, and have incentivization to do that.
All right. We see it as a positive stepping stone, a positive portal that can allow for individuals to experience different ways of receiving information, because for many people on earth, the information sources that they have are somewhat limited. They have to go to school, or they have to be around, you could say, people that possess a great deal of knowledge and wisdom. So to be able to empower people to learn through spiritually activated artificial intelligence can ultimately empower large groups of people with information, with wisdom, with knowledge, so they can actually become more self-empowered, and so they can begin to make changes in their life that they would not be able to make without such information. So we see it as something that is worthwhile. Can you describe to us a little bit more about the token dimension of it?
I'm not quite sure about the token dimension, but it would be a form of cryptocurrency that would be usable and allow people access to more financial abundance as they receive spiritual abundance. At least that's my understanding of it.
Sure. So what we are seeing here is the following. This type of endeavor is designed to ultimately open doors for alternative ways of living for those whom are invested in creating new systems of commerce and new systems of education. For right now on your planet, there is a type of reorganization taking place. Right now, the process is stabilizing a little bit more because you are moving through this earth phase that we have mentioned. But of course, it is important to remember that this earth phase will shift into an air phase. So times of stability will always shift and change. So eventually, you'll find that your collective will have to create new ways of, you could say, expanding its means of business and commerce and education. So the more tools and possibilities there are, the smoother that transition process will be. For it is as if your collective consciousness will have more examples to draw upon, so tools can be implemented in strategic ways. So we see these things as worthwhile. We would encourage you, especially if you are excited about this, to continue to invest yourself into these programs and into these endeavors, because you're paving the way for the future. It's important to remember that these technologies will continue to expand, they will continue to grow, and they will have an amplification effect on human consciousness. So the more you invest into these directions now, the more you will see future-based parallel reality versions of Earth unfolding before your eyes. So think of it as a way to create more possibility for people, and think of it as a way to anchor in some of those idealized future versions of Earth into your present moment experience.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that insight. And I think it's a lovely idea too. I just wanted to share my own personal feelings and emotions on that. I think it's a good idea. People love incentives, and financial incentives are usually the best kind. And if it exposes people to a different way to perceive, I'm all for that. And thank you, Ryoka, for the beautiful reflection and sharing for that too. The next question comes from Omni, and Omni asks, how can we as humans integrate interpersonal acceptance in order to embody the next level of conscious evolution?
Sure. So we'll talk about it like this. Interpersonal acceptance has to do first and foremost with accepting the self. Now, as we had said, the foundational level of the self is changeless, it is timeless, it is eternal. For many of you, this is the level of the self that is the easiest to accept, because it is ubiquitous. It is connected to the foundation of all experiences and expressions of reality. However, for many of you, it can also be a bit esoteric. It can be a little heady. It can be a little conceptual. So what we would advise is, first and foremost, begin to accept the present moment through the breath, and allow for this acceptance of the present moment through the breath to allow for you to become aware more of your body. And as you become more aware of your body, you will become aware of the different emotions, the different thoughts, the different sensations, the different pleasures and pains of the body. And as you become aware of these things, begin to practice acceptance of these things through non-reactivity, through not engaging with them directly, but through simply noticing them and allowing them to be there, and noticing that through that allowance of these different sensations, thoughts, and feelings, these things automatically begin to transform and to neutralize on their own. And in that transformational moment, there is a type of peace and pleasure that is engendered. And as you begin to fill yourself with these energies of acceptance and peaceful transformation, you will then become more capable of applying that same attitude and mindset to the world around you. Remember that it is the mind itself and its judgments and opinions that create issues in acceptance. However, if the mind is relaxed, which can be achieved through the breath, then the body is relaxed. It is the body that creates the matrix for the mind. No body, no physical mind. So if the body is relaxed, then the mind will be relaxed. If the mind is relaxed, it will be easier to accept the thoughts, the feelings, and the sensations within yourself. And if you're able to accept those things within yourself, you will be able to accept those things within the world around you. You'll be able to accept those experiences within the world around you. Now, when you accept those things, there are many approaches that you can take, because acceptance is let's just say, the first step in a process. Because once you have accepted something, you are now in a position where you can create change. If something is not accepted, if something is rejected, you cannot really make lasting change, because any actions that you take to create the change will be made at an arm's length. But if you are truly accepting the world around you, you have the ability to assist the world around you in changing in a more positive way. So you can guide change both internally and externally through acceptance. And it is, again, through breath, awareness, and non-reactivity that true acceptance can be experienced. And that's what allows for you to form a response. Not a reaction, but a response. And a response is mediated first and foremost through you selecting the energy state that you prefer to be in, and then acting from that preferred energy state.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that too. And that brings us back to the 3 states that you shared originally. The thought energy, the action, and I can't remember the third one.
Emotional.
Yes, perfect. And so that ties it right back in. Thank you for sharing that. We have another question from Janger. It says, Ryoka, can you give instructions on how I can be more open or receptive to information? I would love to receive more.
Sure. So one of the things that we would say is that you actually have the capability to absorb more information through relaxation of the mind and nervous system. So for many people, when they are receiving information, their minds sometimes will attempt to intellectualize that which they are receiving. So for example, you might be listening to information, and then you may start thinking about, oh, this information reminds me of this thing that I heard, or that thing that I heard, or, oh, maybe this information can help me to do this. And many people, instead of being present with the information that they are receiving, will start to think and will start to intellectualize the information, which actually removes them from the present moment. And if you are removing yourself on the mental level from the present moment, then you are actually not available to receive the information that you are receiving. And it's almost as if you are attempting to breathe, but your nose is congested. That's what it can be like. So when you are receiving information, when you are learning, when you are working with a teacher or a mentor, or you're just with those around you and you're learning from them, allow for yourself to simply breathe and to really listen to what they are saying. And when you listen to what they are saying, pay attention not just to their words, but pay attention to all of the sounds that you are hearing. Right now, you will notice that there are likely many sounds in your experience besides just our words coming through your speakers. Fully listen to the present moment and combine this deep listening with your breathing. And allow for a state of relaxation to flavor the listening quality. And you'll find that our words begin to take on more of a multidimensional quality. Because remember, there are only so many frequencies, sonically speaking, that you are able to take in through the physical ears. Yet your nervous system is capable of perceiving greater levels of energy connected to each of the words that we speak. So when you are deeply relaxed, when you are not just listening to the words, but you are listening to the entirety of your experience, what you'll find is you are then more capable of absorbing the multidimensional information that is encoded into the words that we are transmitting. And you'll find that this is the case with all experiences connected to learning. In particular, when you are attempting to learn, really put your mind into the nervous system. Become aware of your brain, become aware of your spine, Relax these parts of your body. Ground yourself into the nervous system, because the nervous system is like an antenna that is capable of receiving and broadcasting these subtle energies and these electrical energies. So anchor yourself here into the root of the nervous system. And from the root of the nervous system, through the brain, the spine, go into breathing and listening. Listen to the entirety of the reality experience before you, and you'll find you absorb information in a much deeper way. You will find that information begins to communicate with you in a much deeper way. And you will also find that your own higher mind will begin to teach you, will begin to communicate with you, because when you become that relaxed and that receptive to these subtle energies connected to words that you are receiving, you'll find that your higher self's ability to share with you teachings and information will also increase. And that will turn into a greater level of wisdom reception and learning.
Beautiful. I really appreciate that too. That's very insightful. We have another question here, and this one's from Chuck. Can you explain the recent super blue moon's effects?
Yes. So we'll talk about it like this. The blue quality represents the hottest flame. So this is a moon, a lunar event, you could say, that has to do with... One moment. We are going to adjust the channel's vocal cords slightly. Thank you. This particular moon is symbolizing an acceleration in your spirit. For you are now moving into, you could say, the energies of Aries. Your full moon was basking in the energies of Pisces, the final sign in the zodiacal wheel, and now the moon is exploring more of the Aries theme, which is all about fire. This blue hue, this blue light connected to the moon, has to do with the hottest level of fire, the hottest level of the flame. This is a type of motivating energy. This is a type of, you could say, inspiring energy that is ultimately designed to awaken your heart center, and in particular, your higher heart center, level with what you would call your thymus. So this energy is designed to propel you forward. It's designed to motivate you. It's designed to get you to really go forth into the realities that you say you prefer. Even though the moon is now beginning to wane, it's beginning to lose light. There was so much of this spiritual fire energy given off by this most recent full moon that it is as if all of you now have charged batteries. So you can begin to now move forward in a more empowered way. This energy that is connected to the supermoon that you're referring to has a strong link to the civilization of the beings connected to Sirius. And the Pisces energy representing the fish is another, you could say, correspondent link to this Sirius energy. These beings are now making contact with your planet in a deeper way, and they are assisting you in activating this fiery energy of motivation and empowerment, which is similar to a volcano under the sea. So we are speaking a little cryptically here, but we are also doing our best to give you as many symbols as we can so you can contextualize this energy, which in a nutshell is an energy of motivation. It is an energy of really raising your frequency so you can move forward boldly with charged batteries. And it is also energy that is guided by the beings of Sirius, whom are assisting you in activating hidden power like a volcano under the sea, so you can move forward in unexpected and interesting ways that are designed to uplift you and those around you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Ryoka. We appreciate that. We're gonna have time for maybe one, maybe two questions remaining for the night, and the next one comes from Deborah, our very own Patreon. Deborah, hello, Deborah. How are you? The question is, can you please recommend a good breathing technique which would be beneficial to us?
Sure. We will share one with you that can be done at night, and it will complement the previous question that we were given. And we would describe this as the fourfold lunar breath. So, what we would advise is allow for yourself to do this when you are preparing for sleep, or when you would like to engage in some type of psychic activity. This will sharpen your psychic senses, and if done before sleep, it will likely increase the probability of lucid dreaming, or at least enhance dream recall. So the idea is, in a comfortable position, allow for yourself to inhale for 4 seconds and begin to see in those 4 seconds the moon, and see the moon's luminosity increase as if you were looking at the waxing moon. See the moon go from new, totally black, slowly towards full over the duration of 4 seconds. Once you hit the 4-second mark, hold your breath for 4 seconds and visualize the full moon. On your exhale, exhale for 4 seconds and see the moon's light begin to wane. See the moon once more go from full to new. Hold the breath out for 4 seconds and see the moon totally black. And repeat. Inhale for 4, see the moon wax. Hold for 4 and imagine you are gazing at the full moon. Exhale for 4, see the moon wane. Hold the breath out for 4 and gaze into the void of the new moon. And this is an exercise that will synchronize you with the lunar energies. It will activate more of your subconscious mind, and it will also allow for your psychic perceptions to increase and to grow.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. We do have time for one last question. And this question comes from Powerful Preps. Is humanity still not ready for extraterrestrials face to face?
It's not that humanity is not ready. It is that you are still in a process of accepting that extraterrestrials are amongst you and reside within you. So it's not that you're not ready, because the contact is already happening. The extraterrestrial presence is already here. We'll describe it like this. Extraterrestrials exist on Earth now. It is simply that they exist within bubble realities. These are sort of like alternate realities that overlay with your experience of Earth. So individuals and groups of individuals have the ability to raise their frequency or to adjust their frequency sufficiently enough so they can tune into some of these bubble realities and can then make contact with these extraterrestrial beings that are already present. Now, humanity as a whole, let's just say, does not possess a concept consciously of such things. So it's not that they're not ready. It is simply that there is a level of ignorance in relationship to the ability to shift one's frequency to match that of the bubble reality. In terms of readiness, we'll describe it like this. Once you have global contact with extraterrestrial beings, life will be everything but ordinary. things will be incredibly different. So keep in mind that these beings are already here. Nevertheless, many beings on your planet are playing out their games. They are going through their processes. They are going through their lesson learning experiences. When something like global open contact occurs, many people may feel as if there is no longer a reason to explore some of the things they were exploring. Many people will feel as if the games that they were playing no longer really matter to them as much. So right now, many people on your planet are going through a type of acceleration process where they are playing these games to the fullest. They are getting all of these things out of their system, and they are preparing themselves to accept the contact that is already happening. So there is a level of readiness that is required, but that readiness simply has to do with one's integration with the lesson learning processes that they're going through. And when humanity is sufficiently learned in that respect, when they have gone through those processes, they will be more ready because their attention will then be on, let's just say, novelty. When people's attention is wrapped up in the same old thing, the same old story, the same old drama, there's not a lot of space for those new experiences. But remember, they are only new to those people because they have not directly experienced them. But regardless, extraterrestrial beings are present in your atmospheres. They are present on your planet. So the contact is already here. The presence is already here. It's simply a matter of knowing how to access those bubble realities. And if your plate is full with the karma, with the dramas, with the stories, with the things you have to tend to, it can make it challenging to find the time to learn what is needed to access those frequencies of Earth where contact is already occurring in a direct way. So there's still some time needed. There's still some process needed, but that's all right. Go at your own pace. Because remember, once you meet some of these beings face to face, physically, many things in your world can start to shift. So sometimes it's better to take it slow.
I really appreciate that. And I know that's a question deep on the mind. I want to thank you too, Ryoka, and just for being here. And of course, Tyler, for helping part of that co-creation for your channeling. It was very, very in-depth and very beautiful and very heartfelt and very synchronistic too. And everyone really appreciates you sharing your perspectives with these questions. So thank you guys out there for putting in your questions. And thank you, Ryoka, again, for being here.
Of course, it is our passion and our joy to be able to explore with you and all members of your civilization in this way. Our unconditional love to you always.
Thank you. You guys are amazing. Everybody out there who's in the chat, thank you so much for sending out your questions. Beautiful stuff. Amazing. Hang in there. Just in a few minutes, we're going to be getting to the actual Q&A portion of our Patreon. A lot of you don't know this because you're here from YouTube. You're here on one of the Facebook pages that we're kind of live streaming to tonight. But this is our Patreon Q&A night. Usually it's on the 30th, but 30th landed on a Wednesday. And Wednesday I have my Enlightenment Evolution Hour, which is a scheduled weekly show. So we had to move it to the 31st. And today is that day. So here, after we get Tyler back with us and he connects, I am going to go ahead and jump out for about 10 to 12 minutes so that I can neutralize. And I'm going to bring in Treb and Ardif. And they're going to be answering questions, not from the chat like Ryoka did, but from the form that's filled out every month on the Q&A, which are specific questions to Treb and Ardif from our Patreon portal members. But if you still want to hang out, even if you can't get a question in, there's always great things that come from reflections of those channelings too. So stick with us, hang out for a little bit. Those of you who jumped in late, Tyler Ellison is the channeler of Ryoka, and he's coming back with us. I'm sure you're probably already there.
I'm here. Yes, I'm here. Just taking in all the great things you're saying, Rob.
I appreciate it. Everyone in the chat is absolutely amazed and is loving the answers and everything that Ryoka and you were able to provide us. So thank you so much for that, brother. It was really something special.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Rob. Great to be able to do this. And yeah, man, the space that you facilitate definitely allows for a lot of information to come out. I feel very open. It feels like my channeling expanded from being able to do this here. So thank you for creating these spaces for people to gather.
Oh, absolutely. That's one of my best things that I love about Patreon. We've got a nice little community there of people who are excited about channeling, who come, and just any version where two channelers or more get together. It's always something beautiful too, because me and Kalina originally doing the channel panel, that was the whole idea. Bring a bunch of great people with high vibes and good guides together with a bunch of people who also have great guides and high vibes and come in to ask questions. And no matter what, every time I've been in a multi-channeler event or just doing a live stream like this, like, hey, you want to channel tonight? Yeah, let's do it. Any of that, where me and another person or multiple other channelers come together, it's always something more expansive. Your guides and your own energy are reflecting way more energy the more that you connect with people. But in this space, you've got people who've already known who you are and connected to you, and also maybe some who just are bumping into you or not as familiar with that channeling. So your guides are getting exposure to new energy. My guides, being with your guides, are getting exposure to new energy. Your guides with mine, and all these people who are here with these questions and higher self energy. This is why I love about multi-channeler things and events. And I know before me and Kalina started really doing that, all we saw was like friends, like maybe like Wendy Kennedy when she was connected with Nora Harold and stuff. They would work together, but that's because they knew each other. They grew up together. They channeled together. Not grew up, but like grew up as channelers together. Um, and that's it. I mean, you would rarely see multiple channeler events. And now the community energy is vital. It's important. This isn't a competition. It's not, hey, how many of my people can I hold on to? Like the old paradigm of that channeling was like, no, if you're going to listen to channeling, you should only listen to mine because mine is right and everybody else's is wrong. It's old. It's stale. It's not cool from my perspective. If you
Totally.
feel that way, that's great. I'm not judging you, but just from my perspective, it doesn't hold a space for good energy. So thank you for being a part of it, brother.
Yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely. Absolutely, Rob. I can keep talking to you, by the way. I can let you get ready if you want. And
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah.
say that would be great if you can do that. And I wanted to let Janger know, anyone who's watching, I know some of you on my personal Facebook, my friend Facebook, like my actual Facebook page, and not the ET Whisperer page or the others. You guys might not be able to chat into the chat. We might not be able to see you. I know you guys aren't seeing what we're typing. So if you want to join us on YouTube, just go to ET Whisperer YouTube channel and join us in the chat there. Also, someone in the audience asked about Tyler's information. All of Tyler's links and bio are in the description for these videos. So if you're listening now or you're watching back on Facebook or YouTube, all his information is there. Um, it's definitely going to be something you'll want to check out too once you're done here, to go check out Tyler's YouTube, and all that stuff's in the bio and the information below. I'm going to shut up, brother. I'm going to let you have the floor for the next 10 to 15 minutes as I get together all my stuff and get in that channel. And when I get back, Tyler will be asking Treb and Art if the questions that our Patreon portal members already put in. And if you can look at the private chat too for that message priority question for William, and maybe ask that one first, because William definitely deserves to get a question in once in a while. The poor guy's usually doing what Tyler does and doesn't get a chance to ask his own question. Or he does, but he doesn't take that. So we're going to let him get a question in tonight too, guys, because he is a paying member of Patreon too. But thank you, brother. I love you. Thank you for holding this space for me too while I'm getting ready to do this. And thank you for being here with everybody, guys. We love you guys in the chat, and I'll be back in a few.
Awesome. Sounds good, Rob. Sounds good. Appreciate it. All right. Great. So we have a lot to look forward to. This is going to be incredibly exciting. So I have been a fan of Rob's work for a while, but I always would only tune in seldomly, if that makes sense. Like I would see him channeling and I'd see his posts and would always feel this deep soul family resonance. And it's how would I describe it? It always struck me as familiar and something I wanted to connect with. And it's I got to say, it's surreal to be in these spaces with him now. You know, it's a lot of fun. And yeah, so we have what, like 10 minutes where we just get to hang out. And I guess I can just sort of talk, which is fine. I don't mind. I am gonna look at the comments, see what's going on here. So I recognize Chuck Freeberg. What's up, Chuck? Good to see you. Chuck's someone I know from my Patreon community. And just taking a look here, it says Tyler, the volcano reference made me very happy. It ties in a lot with what the Hawk Spirit told me. And if the serious thing relates to Hathors, then serious mind bent and excitement. Yes, as far as I know, there is a strong link to Sirius and the beings that are sometimes referred to as the Hathors. That specific link, I think I heard from a channeler of the Hathors. I'm probably going to get his name right. I think it's Tom Kenyon. Is that right? Let me. Yep, Tom Kenyon. Exactly. Yep. And he had said that when he made contact with the Hathors, that they had a strong connection to Sirius, and that general direction in the night sky represents, I guess, the directionality connected to that civilization. So yeah, I appreciate that. Powerful Prep says, yeah, the moon is amazing tonight. And that is true. It has been surreal. Like I had the full moon here where I am last night, but it was kind of cloudy. And then tonight when I was driving, it was like full fledged. And it's been wild. I feel like the full moon has given me such a powerful boost in energy. Exactly what they were saying, that this like super moon is designed to be like an energizing force that charges our batteries and propels us. That's definitely what I've been seeing. 100%. I'm like not used to this level of energy recently. I feel like before the full moon, like the build up to it, I was almost like a sloth. But yeah, ever since the full moon has occurred, the energy flow has been incredibly beautiful. So let's see if any. Oh, by the way, thank you, everybody. I'm reading some of your comments. I love you guys too. Thank you. This one person's name, C user admin Armani. Appreciate your words. Thank you so much. Deborah Mayer says, Tyler, could you please explain ceremonial magic? Sure, I'm absolutely happy to do that. So, ceremonial magic essentially involves ritual practices that are designed to invoke the powers of nature on the levels of the elements, on the levels of the planets, and on the levels of the stars. So, ceremonial magic, as I have learned it, usually relates to working with angels and archangels as the representatives of those different forces, of the elements, of the planets, of the stars. So, ceremonial magic or ritual magic is specifically a way of accessing these powers so you can direct them to manifest. Now, the system of ceremonial magic can be used to manifest material things. Like a lot of people will use it to manifest fame or to manifest beauty or health. And we call that practical magic. So ceremonial magic has applications that can be used to directly benefit the material success that one's experiencing in life. But it also has a much higher function. Ceremonial magic can be used to expand one's consciousness and to essentially assist the practitioner or the magician in transforming themselves into an angel. My mentor, Damien, he has this great quote where he pretty much says, humans are unconscious angels. And I always thought that was beautiful because angels originally were gods back when polytheism was the uh, status quo on earth. There were gods that ruled over everything, right? Like there was the god of the air, there was the god of water, there was the god of the southern waters, there was a god of Jupiter, there was a god of Neptune, so on and so forth. But when the world religious structure shifted from polytheism to monotheism, all of these gods then became angels. So the process of invoking angels, spiritually speaking, is designed to turn a person into an angel. And, these angels originally were gods. So it's also a way of activating the God within oneself. It's a way of activating the three God powers within one's consciousness, omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience. So ceremonial magic is incredibly powerful. And it requires daily practice to get results. It's like physically exercising. If you only do push-ups once in a while, your muscles will only get so big. But if you're doing, exercise each day, right, your muscles have no choice but to grow and to evolve. And ceremonial magic is just like this. If it's used for practical purposes, repetition is needed. And if it's used for spiritual purposes, repetition is needed. But that's a brief description on ceremonial magic. And it's something I recommend people look into. It definitely can be, it's more, I would say out of all the spiritual practices, it's one of the more hardcore ones in terms of what it can produce. Like the changes are very real. They're very accelerated. But I think it's great. It's something that, comes from the West. And what makes it very unique is like I think here as Westerners know a lot about Eastern systems, right? We know about like Buddhist meditation. Some of us know about Tantra or breathing exercises. And a lot of our understandings of spirituality and spiritual systems come from Eastern cultures and Eastern religions. But a lot of people don't know about what exists within like European traditions and these Western traditions. A lot of people have no idea that even exists. So I think that for a lot of folks, it can be really fun to get into ceremonial magic because it's a way of connecting with the esoteric systems of the West. And they differ from Eastern practices. Eastern practices tend to be more subtle. They tend to produce change slowly over time. Working with Western magic, specifically ceremonial magic, changes happen fast. My mentor, when he first started with Zen Buddhism, where you're just sort of just watching your breath and breathing, and he said he was getting almost nothing out of that. But when he started ceremonial magic, almost immediately, he started getting results. He started being able to see and feel his consciousness evolving. So that's just a little primer on ceremonial magic. Thank you for that question. It is one of the, you could say, pathways that is near and dear to my heart. Kara Khan says, I charged a good amount of water last night. Oh, that's a great idea. Oh my gosh. Yeah, nothing like full moon water. What a powerful way to download all of that lunar energy right into your body. Very, very cool. Let's see. I'm just going to read through some of the comments. Oh, yeah. Armani says, thank you for introducing me to Teenage Sabrina, the Teenage DJ, the last time you and Rob got together. You are super welcome. That is always going to be one of my favorite artists. Let's see. Oh, Ninma, Anunnaki. Gods are just powerful beings, the less spiritually evolved, used to worship as deities of idolatry. We remember this game from millennia ago in Greece and Mesopotamia from Omni Collective. Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting what these are because gods are there's a lot of different perspectives on what gods are. there are some people that think of gods as extraterrestrials, like they are like these sort of narcissistic, self-absorbed beings from other planets or other systems that, you know, come to places like Earth where there's less evolved beings. Then they use their power to be like, worship us. We have all this technology and we have all these abilities. Like, clearly we're your creators. And I've heard some people say that that's what gods are. Gods are just sort of these narcissistic, power-hungry extraterrestrials. And a traditional approach on what gods are, and this comes from the magical tradition, is that gods are essentially thought forms that were created through ritual magic. So they're all earth-based, but the idea is, well, there's actually there's a whole. Even saying that, I'm realizing there's so many other angles to take. So number one, the classical gods were thought of as the planets in the night sky. So ancient people wouldn't wonder, like, do gods exist or not? They'd be like, look, there they are, right there in the night sky. We can see them. But to interact with these beings, some type of image was needed. Some type of symbol set was needed to personify the being, to name the being, to make that power of nature, to make that power of the universe accessible. So what ceremonial magic talks about is that these gods, quote unquote, they're not somewhere out there. They're all human concepts and constructs that were created on Earth to make those different powers of either the elements or the planets or the stars more accessible to human consciousness, so human consciousness could then access those powers and direct those powers as needed. The planets were also seen as gods in that they were believed to control a person's life. They were believed to control a person's fate. And we can see that in astrology, right? Like, a lot of people, if they're not doing a spiritual practice, are wrapped up in the forces of the planets and the stars as they rotate and move. Although what I will say is, with this retrograde season, it seems no matter how evolved people are, just about everybody I know is affected in some way. To say that the gods are lesser, let's see. Actually, maybe I'm misreading that. Let's see. Gods are just powerful beings, the less spiritually evolved. I'm not sure about that next part about less or more spiritually evolved. I don't know how I think it would depend on the god, you know. Some gods would probably be more spiritually. Yeah, I would say some gods are more spiritually evolved depending on their frequency and on which type of dimensional plane they reside on. And some would be, you know, less spiritually evolved if they're on a lower plane. So I can see that. But yeah, omni-collective creativity. I appreciate that point. That's cool. That's cool. I like that. Let's see. I love what everyone's writing here. These are really, really interesting comments. I doubt most of these ETs wanted to be worshipped. They're like our DNA fathers. So it's more like respect for our ancestors who are more evolved than us and helped us evolve on this planet. I agree with that. I do. And I also think that there in the extraterrestrial perspective, I would imagine there's possibly both. I could see there being some extraterrestrials that are somewhat narcissistic and want to be worshipped. I could see that being a thing, but I also agree. I think most of them in this perspective are more like just DNA donors that, yeah, wanted to create more life and wanted to give life an opportunity to evolve in a new world in a new way. I think that's a valid one. I think another one too that's interesting is kind of the experimenter perspective, where they essentially were like, let's create life on this planet. Let's see what happens from like a hands-off perspective, and we'll make decisions from there, kind of like a petri dish approach. And I have a hunch that different extraterrestrial groups seeded or at least had their hands in creating different factions or different populations of humanity. And I have a hunch they all probably had a slightly different approach and motivation behind why they did it. So let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right, I'm back. If you are ready for the Q&A part, and if you got all the questions ready, brother.
Yes, I have. Welcome back, Rob. I have
Thank you, brother.
Yep, you're welcome. I have the link here, the email open. So I'm looking at all these questions. So I can see that we have the question from William. I also see there's one from Chelsea. Is that in the email?
I believe it is. I
Okay.
believe it is. It should be.
Okay.
All right. So if it isn't, then it's no big deal. But if it is, that's fine. All of you guys who might just be popping in, it looks like some of you are just popping in. Welcome to our Q&A night on Patreon. Because we had a special guest, Tyler, the amazing channeler Ellison, with us tonight. He did a beautiful channeling earlier. I'm going to be doing one right now. This is where we normally do the Q&A. So these questions have already been sent in throughout the entire month, this month, and our Patreon people sent them in on the form, joining Patreon, which is part of the Patreon experience, as well as the suggestions that are brought up in the very first part of the month, and then we put them in a poll and vote for the topic that everyone wants to hear the most talked about in depth, and we did that on the 15th. Some of those you hear on the YouTube channel, we take clips out of them, like the Metatron ones that we released was from when Metatron joined us for the in-depth poll about Earth and connecting. So yeah, enjoy the night, guys. I appreciate all of you guys being here. I'm so active in the chat. And most of all, brother, I appreciate you taking your time tonight to come out here and do this with us, and share your channeling and help facilitate the Q&A for Trev and Ardif too.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, man, great to connect and great to be able to explore these topics. So greatly appreciated.
Absolutely, brother. Besides the William thing, if when you go through questions, you can randomize them however you want. Sometimes William puts together the Ardif or Treb questions during the randomization, so maybe a couple to each of them, or just mix it up. Or if it's not labeled, then it doesn't matter who the question goes to. But either way, you can do that however you like, and then we'll rock and roll, guys. And for all of you who are listening, these questions come with a bit of an explanation. Trev and Ardif are looking at your question, and they're taking that energy, and when you ask the question, all these parts of your own energy are activated. Your chakra system, your mental body, your emotional body, your aura field, that all connects up to the higher self, and then the higher self connects out to the guides, and the guides connect to the question topic, to the person, place, or thing that the question's connected to, and they take a big snapshot of that energy and say, hey, we're going to give you our perspective of what this energy looks like. And the reason I tell everyone that is when you're asking your own questions with Trev and Ardif, when you have some form of excitement in that question, even if it's a hard question about a sensitive topic, excuse me, then that becomes a part of how they reflect to you. So they'll give you an answer that is exciting and can be exciting back to you. So enjoy yourself, everyone. I love you guys. Thank you for being here with us, and special thanks to our Patreon people who are here tonight who wanted to share this live stream publicly. We asked them, hey, do you mind if we share this with a greater public? Because they paid to do the Patreon, and they graciously said yes, let everyone hear it. As well as Tyler. Tyler was very excited too for everyone to be able to hear it too. So thank all of you guys, and thank you too, brother. I really do appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure. My pleasure. I'm looking at the questions. I don't see that one from Chelsea in here. Is it okay to skip that one, or did you have that?
Yeah, I don't have that with me, so if it's not in the Q&A, unfortunately we won't be able to do it tonight. But that's cool too. All right, guys, I'm gonna go ahead. You're gonna hear some breathing and some oming. Ardif will pop in. He'll say hi to you guys, and then the questions will begin. Let me see. Hi, Rob. Can we get the links to Tyler here in the chat? The ones in the description are not available to be clicked. Maybe Tyler will be able to do that. Actually, no, because he doesn't have that. At the end of the night, we'll get those set up. After the video is done live streaming, those should be clickable links. And if for any reason they're not, we'll put them into the pinned comment and make sure that they're clickable for you guys too. That way you guys can get quick access to Tyler's information too. All right, guys, I'm going to take one more drink and we're going to jump in both feet. All right, guys, have fun. And thanks again, Tyler. I appreciate you being here, brother. And we'll see you guys on the other side.
All right, sounds good.
All right, here we go. Greeting to all the authoritative that is LIDIF, and this is its spell. We understand that all of you have queries for this evening, but before diving in to those queries, there are the two things in which we have always expressed. The first, above and beyond all things that are expressed in this day, to know, to perceive, and to feel that you are loved in our perspective is of the utmost importance. Secondly, it is our greatest excitement to be here with all of you at a singular co-created level as well as a co-creative level as well. And we understand all of you in this co-creation hope that level of same great excitement as well. We also wish to greet you, Tyler, as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the greeting, and wonderful to be able to have this shared co-creative experience with you.
Yes, of course. And of course, you may begin your queries at your leisure as well.
Perfect. Perfect. So our first question is from William. And William says, at some point unknown to me, I stopped remembering my dreams. I was hoping with guidance to remedy this. At what time did this happen, and how can I begin to recall that? Thank you.
Yes, of course, first of all, as you understand the nature of your own experience, to lose that recall of the dream state co-creative sphere, that was, of course, unknown to you. It was a fleeting form of energy, and directly done so for that reason. Previous to the remembrance of co-created dreams, you had multitudes of creative levels in which you were expressing your own consciousness from. Some of those levels within that first layer of the dream state in the low astral projected region, where you were simply yourself or another human, co-creating in the very physical nature of Earth itself. And in the second layer of your dream state consciousness, even that higher astral level state of consciousness, you are co-creating with other beings upon other planets, upon other ships in higher dimensions. But most of your dream state came from that third layer of the dream state consciousness, that template layer of creation, where you are shifting your own consciousness into the highest perspective that is available within your higher fractal consciousness in the upper echelons of your sixth density form. And of course, in that state, you are quite literally and truly creating. And that layer holds a great reduction of memory because that experience is so foreign to the human co-creative physical state in your body. Now, of course, the more time that you spend in this region, the less your memory comes back. And some of the reason why this occurs is that much of what you do in that dream state in your creative level, as well as an actual form of co-creation with guide beings, other entities, and co-creative consciousnesses for that collaborative building, were done so for the purpose of your internal expansion. Now, of course, your mental body holds a very strong purpose, and in that creative level, each time the remembrance of one form of dream comes into your conscious state of awareness, you would analyze this greatly. You would take your mind and hold great deal of scrutiny to what the experience was, how it were to affect you, how it were to co-create with the consciousness internally and externally. And this separated some of that energetic dream form for you. The energetic dream form is meant to experience those things in which your body cannot experience. It is meant to work. Many of the problems in your physical body that you cannot work with from the conscious level or from the mental level out. And because you hold that high level of mental energy, the emotional body was not responding to the dream state. So, of course, it took that energy out of the remembrance the further your consciousness expanded into that high form of the dream state area. Now, if your desired remedies exactly as it were, and your desire is still very deeply felt by your heart and mind, there are many ways to do so. But for your own archetype of consciousness, the greatest form that we perceive and technique that would be utilized is simply premeditative sleep state. When you are going into that deeper level of your sleep consciousness, hold a premeditative form, visualizing your consciousness and your physical body. And when you are separating layers of your consciousness to go to the dream state, remind your mental body to go out with your dream state consciousness and emotional body. Allow it to integrate further into the sixth density body and develop approximately 80% of your mental body in total, and 25% of that emotional body, in that all of the auric field above, an arm's length away enter
that layer separate that consciousness from yourself in visualization, and that intention alone will help more of the mental body go into the astral state, and when it comes back, allow yourself to wake slowly so the mental body can reintegrate into the fuller consciousness, and you will have better recall as well. We thank you for this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing answer, Ardif. And we'll go into our next question. This is from CJ, and CJ says, greetings. Can you please share any insight on a soulmate I recently met? My first initial E with a question mark. I'm not sure what that means. The energies at our first exchange were deeply multi-layered, loving, but also awkward and confusing. Definitely sense very deep history there, but I'm not clear on who we were or will do together in this incarnation. Any insight on our past relationship and or relationship in this incarnation would be greatly appreciated. Thank you and much love.
Yes, of course. First of all, it is not simply one previous incarnation which both of you have held a relationship. Now, of course, there are multiple relationships through multiple incarnations that both of you have shared, and some of these relationships were romantic and sexual in nature. Others were family-oriented, friendship-oriented, child and parent-oriented, sibling-oriented, enemies that were oriented to fight one another. Now, of course, as you understand, all of the entities that exist within the paradigm of human consciousness co-create at a multiple base of character in which you can gratiate yourself and the consciousness within to be that character for that experience. And in this incarnation, that lifetime that holds the greatest memories are from 3 previous incarnations, 2 of those which hold very deep and loving and emotionally contacted energy, and the 3rd being one that holds great tragedy. This is the tear that you feel in that experience. This is the separation, the pulling that you feel from confusion. But yet the reason why that love energy holds such high vibration frequency in your mind, heart, and conscious soul. Now, of course, the energy, as it were, in those incarnations, lifetimes which love was holding and bonding, were of course appropriate, understood, and not great through the detail in which is shown to us, simply feeling of completion at the end of both of your incarnations, yet that one which holds the highest level of trauma shows great detail. And the reason why both of you feel that confusion initially, despite having that great field, is that there were separation of both of you. Now, of course, this is approximately within your 1300 late region, in the area that is now known as Spain, and both of you lived as simple beings, living within fields, farming, etc., families that grew together, that worked together, lived together, and both of you holding the similar property of farming in which you shared with the entire area and village. Now, both of your families had bonds, interrelationships were not only necessity for that co-creation, but helped both families grow better with the farming regency, as well as the co-creation of extra bodies when children are born. So, of course, both of you held a very deep affection as childhood friends, and as you became the age of marrying, both of you married. Now, of course, a war broke in that region, a conflict less than a war, but a war nonetheless, and took the masculine counterpart, which was yourself, in that life away. And over 70 miles from your home, you fought many entities, bled and suffered, and within that experience found comfort in another feminine being and another female, not knowing if you would live. Your sexual co-creation was with this person, and of course through the sexuality bore the fruit of a child. Now when you came home, you felt necessity to not leave that female being and your new child to a war-torn region, and brought them back to your own home after making it safe for them to be. Now this divided your lifetime for several years. Another war came to that region and killed both your new wife and many of your children's friends. Now, of course, having children at that time, you had already had several children with the first wife, and now this new child was brought into that relationship as you took back your first wife. The experience held a great deal of bitterness, resentment, anger. But as the war came to that experience, and many of those children that were around your own children were dying, both of hunger and direct casualty of war, it brought you closer together, protecting your children and creating a space for the safety of other children brought that bond back. It was never forgotten, but it was mended to some degree. Now, of course, as you left for the next skirmish that occurred several miles away from your region, then, of course, all of your children and wife died within that area. It brought great sadness and eventually brought great death by that sadness as well. So, of course, this travesty lives as an unhealed part of your own consciousnesses. Now, of course, after those lifetimes, you amalgamate back into the higher fractal consciousness and understood the purpose for that life, the learning lessons that it brought. But it still not make that fractal feel whole, and once you reincarnated and met again, that last experience that was traumatic tends to come into your own field. But remember, your previous incarnation is not this, and this incarnation is created from your own consciousness and not from that which is your past. The reason that those awkward feelings exist are not relevant to this incarnation. Simply allow yourself to send that previous version of both of you, as well as your children, all of that love that you can muster, knowing that through their hardships you are still linked, and by giving that love, you are healing both previous paradigm of your own co-creative consciousness as well as this incarnation. We thank you for this.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, amazing information, very in-depth. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Our next question. This is from Deborah. She says, "Hello, Aradif. About 2 weeks ago, I was awakened in the middle of the night in my bedroom where I was sleeping alone by a loud thumping noise. It startled me. Nothing in the room had changed. No pictures had fallen off the walls or anything like that. There was no wind, so no branches from nearby trees had hit the house. Outwardly, there was no difference. Can you please tell me if this was perhaps an entity trying to contact me and why that would occur? With thanks and love."
Yes, of course. First of all, as you understand, the nature of knocking occurs for many humans as they are sleeping and are woken from such knocking. Now, of course, often it is simply an environmental energy outside of your dwelling. In this case, it is not. With your own guides, work with you upon multiple layers as they understand the nature of your emotional heart, the depth of your consciousness towards that expansion of the heart energy. And when they are working with you, you are often intuiting a great deal of co-creation around you, although you are not always able to discern where that energy comes from, what entity it co-creates from, or what sphere of your own consciousness is receiving that energy. It is an appropriate measure for them to try to communicate with you in other ways. Now, of course, that loud sound is not a knocking upon your wall, as some entities, especially those that are in between human lives, often do. The reason for that, in humans who have passed forward, are that they are trying to make physical contact in the physical realm because they are not integrated highly enough into their own higher self to understand that there is an evolution to continue after their death. Most of those humans are stuck deeply in the world, but instead, this occurs from the phenomenon of consciousness reintegrating into the body at very quick speeds. Now, of course, your third eye and the energy that is prone to your psychic understandings, as well as one of the greater tools in leaving your body in the astral projected sleep state, is directly connected to your ability to hear. This is why you hear inward tones inside of your left or right ear randomly throughout your day. This is why many humans hear sounds that others are not able to. Your psychic networking is perceiving a consciousness that is near and a consciousness that desires to co-create with you in that way. So in that moment, what you are hearing is not direct communication knocking upon your ear, but a consciousness that connects with you so deeply it shifts your consciousness back into your body. It is a startling affair when you are not in the higher levels of your sleep state. When you are in that low astral projected state, you are only in your fourth density conscious body. You are only regulating a portion of consciousness no larger than 15% more than what you hold in your body regardless. So in that energetic wave, understanding in that co-creative sphere, you feel that presence so strongly and pop right back into your body. With that quick form of energy going back into your body, your third eye becomes activated quickly and strongly, and it feels as if it is a punch to the third eye or forehead. And that is the sound that you are hearing as you are re-entering your body. That is why you hear that loud sound, and when it is repetitive, it is your consciousness going back into the body, yet your mental energy of that astral projected state is saying, no, we want to know what this entity is, trying to go back out. So there's a bit of a fight between the parts of your consciousness that desire to know and the part that wants to be safe in the body.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Aradif.
Yes, of course. We will express as well that the consciousness is not one that is unknown to you. This consciousness is one that has expressed co-creative intentions before, one that you have spoken directly to in a co-created state of a channeled co-creation. We thank you for this.
Excellent. Our next question is from Phil. Phil says, hi, Aradif. In humans, a greater diversity in the diet is associated with a greater diversity in gut bacteria and generally better health. Does this system work the same way with hybrid children, such as the Gayel?
Yes, now in the co-creation of beings that are your Yel, Plariel, and other forms of hybridization, these entities co-create upon multiple levels. Some of them exist in what most humans perceive as low fourth density, others exist in fifth density. In that fifth density consciousness, there's no need for the intake of sustenance in the standard way that humans understand. Trebor Yetni's race utilizes a form of food, but it is not digested food that is then broken down for nutritional value, etc. It is simply a manifestation of a clear metallic form of liquid that is ingested, and this manifests differently through different races. Some beings will extract form of conscious thought into the form of an old native food and take their sustenance in that way, but it is not true sustenance. It is only the intent for the body to be clear and clean, yet in fourth density, pending upon the level and layers in which you exist. The physical form of eating still exists for many races, but of course, by your very early stages of fourth density consciousness, the level of food that you intake is much different. Most races already understand the need for nutrition to be broken down efficiently, so there's no wasteful byproducts as there is in the human dietary construct. So in those beings, of course, having exactly what their home world would have, having exactly what their collective blueprint would dictate as a biome in their own stomach region is important. They understand that balance and utilize dietary needs exactly in the way that their body requires. But within those that are fifth density, they do not require any of the food or factors that remain. Now, some races hold what humans perceive as gut biome in their own physical bodies, third and fourth density alike, and second and first in that nature. And those beings that exist with a biome in digestive forms and tracts, some races only require one form, others require even further extensive bacterial biomes within their own self through diversity than humans do in theirs. So it is greatly dependent upon their own circumstance of evolution, both physically and evolutionary as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ardif.
Yes, of course.
All right. Let's see. So we have our next question. Okay. It's from Nate Zim. This one's addressed to Treb. Is that okay to ask here?
Yes, of course. One moment, we will connect you.
Good evening, Tyler.
Good evening, Treb. Thank you so much for coming through.
Yes, we are very excited as well.
So, this question from Nate. Your responses to my questions have corroborated very specific information that I have gathered previously from various divination tools. However, last month you described my past life in Egypt during World War II, but my divination source places me in a past life in Thailand during the same time period. Can you briefly describe a past life of mine in Thailand? And if not, can you elaborate on the discrepancy that I received with these two past life accounts? Thank you so much, Treb.
Yes, when you look at all of the energies that are related to Egypt, there's more than one past life that exists. And when you look at Thailand, there are just as many different forms of lives that exist. The one that is in World War II time period of the history that you have had the Egypt incarnation, but there's also room for you to have other incarnations in the 1945 and 42 and 41 era as well. The one in Thailand that you perceived is an accurate energy, and with the divination tools that you use, it is not as much of accuracy as it is the moment of your energy. If you remember, the past lives of your experience are just as probable as your future incarnations as well. When you think, what will I do in the future? What you are saying is what I do in this lifetime will help balance my energy and bring me to a place that I can understand or that I can benefit more. And when I am working with the energies that I have and excitement, it helps build a new placeholder for a new life. But when you are outside of your body and not in time, and when you are connecting in the state of afterlife, the more that you integrate to your own higher self, the more that you climb into your higher fractal energy, the more that you find time is not solid, and your past lives are the same as your previous lives. Right now, you have a life that is both in Thailand and Egypt in World War II time, but 10 years ago, neither of those lives were connected to you as well, because they were not part of the energy that you held, because they were not part of the path that you were on.
And when you leave your body, you do not have to linearly experience or travel through those lifetimes. And many times you'll find that when a past life was very horrid or very exciting, but it doesn't fit the theme of your life anymore, then you can change that energy as a probability just as much as you can your future as well. The linear time of feeling for humans feels very concrete and feels very strong for your energy. But the more that you step out of your human experience and into your higher self, the more that you see that probabilities go both ways and not just forward as well.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Treb.
Yes.
So I'm scanning to see if there's other questions. Oh, here we go. This one also is addressed to you, Treb, from Edith. And Edith says, my higher self intensified its presence in me, and I suddenly lost my sense of self, my wants and desires. I felt like I had lost the feeling of romantic love. I only existed to love and be of service. I became scared and returned to my ego self. My teacher explains that I'm at the point where I must develop my spiritual ego. Could I return permanently to that state of greater love and yet maintain a sense of personality, maintain the capacity for romantic attachment, and the desire for physical union with my beloved? My love and thanks to you, Aridith, Rob, Kalina, William, and the community.
Yes. The energy that is the ego consciousness is not what humans always perceive. Yes, there is a layer that is human, and yes, there's a layer that is connected to what you desire and what the body needs. But the ego part of your energy is not just what connects with romantic energy. That energy is different in each person. Some of that romance is very animalistic. Other parts of the romance is very etherical and higher in the chakra energy. So when you are feeling that desire for romantic energy, it is not simply just part of the ego or just part of sexuality. Sexuality is held in all densities and dimensions, even though isn't expressed like humans use sexuality, and doesn't always come in the form of physical bodies and reproductive organs the way that humans do. But with that energy, and with your own understanding of ego, you can return to that space of love any time that you desire. But human physical bodies are not often allowed to hold a greater density of consciousness unless you start training your own body to hold higher levels and quantities of your consciousness. The human body is holding 15 to 20% of all of your soul just inside of the body at the level of fourth density that humans are starting to become. This means that you can take parts of your consciousness that are not resonating with you and share them back to your higher self to use for what it needs, and give you more of those parts that you do desire and that you have more excitement for. So when you start working with that energy, you can find more unconditional love in that energy. And you can start condensing that energy of consciousness that comes from the higher self and brings it back into that physical body there with a greater expansion of the heart, but not need to sacrifice the feeling of desire sexuality. The reason why it scared you is because you understand that in your physical body and with your partner, there is a deep desire to connect in that romantic way, to hold a level of sexuality and connection. And if you felt that changing that energy, that you were required to sacrifice one or the other, this is not true unless your belief systems require it to be. So when you are connecting with that energy, just remember there's always room for more in your heart and going towards trying to evolve to be fully unconditional. This is about what fourth density journey is. At the end of fourth density consciousness, one being starts mastering unconditional love, but until then, that attempt to work towards that energy and embodying as much as you feel that you can or feel that you desire is perfect form of mastery for most of you, but with a deeper desire to expand more deeply and to connect more deeply. It is not about what you must trade from one to the other. It is more so about how your own excitement is to feel towards that energy. And if you readjust that belief system that says that an ego part of your own consciousness cannot truly be unconditional, then it will find a greater vessel for you within your heart container and the chakra to hold more love as well. So you can have best of both worlds without killing, separating, or dividing parts of yourself. And if you do not feel what you felt in that meditation, that is okay as well, because that meditation is your consciousness expanding, showing you what the possibilities are, what the probabilities can be. So simply knowing that you are capable of it means that it is inside you already as well.
Excellent. Thank you, Treb.
Yes.
All right. Oh, here we go. Another one for Treb. This is from Wendy. Hello, Treb. I believe my daughter, Kayla, and I have played out many stories together, galactic as well as here on planet Earth. Aradif had shared at one time that Kayla had to play the role of my mother, and I was hoping that you would share a story or stories that would be relevant to the experience we are presently co-creating. Thank you with so much love.
Yes. When you are back in these lifetimes, many of them are connected with those that you love, because you are souls having that journey together and traveling with your own heart and consciousness desire. So as you connect with each other in this incarnation, it does reflect those examples of the previous energy. One of the lifetimes that you had that was very relevant, where she was able to be your mother, just like you are in this incarnation, and just like you are in this experience. It brought about a birthing of you in a very hard time of the experience. Now, this is in the time period that now can be called the 1730 area. And as you grew in the country that is France, your own life was very tough, living within the area that is Paris. It was very difficult for you because your parents had died at young age, and because you had not married an entity that was also in a substantial financial energetic place of growing or acceleration of growth. And this entity ended up leaving very soon after she had you as a child. So automatically your system was difficult. All of the extended family had gone away and moved to other areas because the area where you were was not one that had affluency or had any form of growth possibility unless you had already been born into abundance or had created systems that could outgrow the growth of the town in that time. So now this entity is taking you as a child and trying to find ways to work, and there was a great deal of difficulty until you were 3 years of age, and at that time, the entity fell in love with both her and you as a child, and this entity had a very strong business that was in Switzerland area and took you both out into the country As you found a country lifestyle and living, the energy became more calm, you became more peaceful, and through your early teachings of Christianity, you started practicing in how to play and how to pray in a deeper way. So now you are having fun in your country life and you are connecting to your prayers, and this energy holds a very exciting element of starting to go deeper into trance levels. And as your mother was teaching you this as a child, and as the energy started becoming more relevant, you were starting to be able to feel that presence of God and the Holy Ghost. And by the time you were 10, you were able to start going into trance states. Your mother had already worked in that level and had already come to know that Holy Ghost. But there were many questions that came to your mind, many problems as the outside world looked at you to be very odd and weird, because you are this highly devoted Christian girl who does nothing but pray inside of your home. They found you to be different from others, but there were families that were very accepting, that were not Christian but understood prayer, understood meditation, understood the deep trance energy. Both of you started working with this family and co-creating energies where they would share with you what it is that could be the most part of your own Holy Ghost or the God's presence that you felt. And when your mother found the greatest secret inside of her, she started realizing that God was not a personified energy and started trying to relate this to, and there was a great division between your energies for several years because you could not see God as everything, but only from the energy of that Christianity faith that you held for so long. But after disconnecting from your mother and started separating yourself, you started to having more vivid visualizations in your meditation and prayers, and that Holy Ghost stopped feeling like a presence of omnipresences and started feeling more as an extension of yourself. And this helped repair that energy very deeply and brought both of you a very great sense of expanding in your spiritual understanding. And although you had to tell others around you that you were still Christian, the faith of that energy dissipated with the understanding that you are more part of God than any of the biblical explanations, and that that energy was simply a good cover to keep your suspicions of witchcraft or witchery away from you.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
Excellent. So, oh, here we go. This is another one from Karen. She says, "Hi Treb, kindly tell me about my past lives, and does it involve my dog Teddy, as he just passed away Saturday, August 8th? Any message from him about his way of death, as it's driving me crazy?"
Yes. The entity that is the pet that you connect with, that is Teddy in this lifetime, is an entity that has been with you in other incarnations before this. But this energy is not as an important part of the energy. The consciousness of this being does not desire for you to understand it as anything else, because more importantly, it is a soul aspect that is connected with your energy as a second density being. Many times it has taken the shape of other dogs that were around your energy or around your neighborhoods as a child and entering young adulthood. Other times it took form as cat or bird. But the second density energy desires for you to understand that the cause of death was simple, that as a soul, the entity's purpose and job for its own desire, but also for co-creating with you, was completed, that this entity in their experience with you did exactly what it was desired to do. The entity grew your heart outward more so. the entity connected with your heart, and let your consciousness feel that deep connection for the natural form and for the life of an animal entity, and the specific bond that it had with you in that lifetime was very important for you to remember and to connect with, because the next time this entity enters your life, which may hold high probability of being in this incarnation, it will not be noticeable to you, it will not feel as that entity did, because that entity and the dynamic that it had with you was an important piece for both of you. But the next experience will be equally meaningful, whether it is able to co-create with you in this lifetime, or whether it is the next incarnation. It understands that your own pain and heart suffering for the loss of this entity is very deep, and the lack of that answering the question itself is also very frustrating as well. But it wants you to recognize that deep sensation of love that was near to your heart in the special way that this entity and you engaged, where this entity did not do these things in front of other humans or with other humans. Only yourself is that bond, and that action of your heart and your physical well-being of connecting with that entity and petting that entity and letting it go into your auric field is that very specific medicine that you needed for your incarnation at this time and the time that it was together with you. And it does not require sadness from this entity's perspective, because it is experiencing a very joyous bliss, and it is not like the human afterlife where there's some time for some humans to reintegrate back into their higher self and understand the greater picture quicker, but more so a direct ascension back into its highest form and a direct knowledge of where it desires to go next time as well. So simply knowing that this entity is still with you and will be until it reincarnates for 1.5 to 2.5 years from this time is very important. And when you put your heart outside of that mode, that is mourning and losing, and places it in a level of receiving and receptiveness, that you will be able to feel its energy again as well.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Treb.
Yes, you are very welcome as well.
So this one is from Diogo, and this one is for Aradif.
Yes, we will leave you all this evening in love and in light, and we will experience each other again very soon. Good night.
Oh, good night. Thank you, Treb.
Yes, and thank you, Tyler, as well. Good night. One moment, we will rehydrate Rob's throat, and you may ask your query at your leisure.
All right.
Yes, of course, you may begin your query at your leisure.
All right. Thank you, Aradif. So this one is from Diogo, and the question is, it is easy to understand reincarnation in linear time, but in non-linear time, where past, present, and future are all happening right now, where my past and future lives are not really me, they are other fractals of my oversoul. How does reincarnation work in this scenario? Thank you. Love you exponentially.
Yes, of course. First of all, you're correct. In that lower fractal conscious perspective, you're not a part of these other fractals that are within your oversoul. They are a framework and an archetype, a blueprint of consciousness that is available to you. These incarnations have already existed. All things are existing at that very moment. So in this way, you can liken to co-creating with your video games as you understand them by ending alive within, and going into a different character to play the same form of game but in a different setting and system. You are co-creating from that level of choosing what is best for your soul and experience to desire. Now, of course, this blueprint archetype has a finite fitting for that conscious life because it has already been experienced. But what you do when entering that co-creation is simply experience the desire to enter that form of archetype and create a new form of experience from that experience blueprint, from creating a new movie from an old script to create the form of incarnation in which your free will is highly existent and your new fractal identity becomes that outpouring of your conscious heart and the conscious creative mind. The experience of that energy is wholeheartedly a new experience, but stepping into that perspective as a fractal who has reintegrated back into their own higher fractal consciousness at high levels and have reciprocated most of the understandings from your previous incarnation, you are able to enter. Now, this is why it is different for all of you. As you exit one life and enter a new, some humans desire to reintegrate back into the Earth incarnation cycle most immediately, and you have only gained access to 10% extra of your consciousness that was housed inside of your body automatically, and within a 1 to 5 year period only a fraction more of that energy. But when you integrate back into that higher fractal consciousness and you are feeling more of that energy, understanding, reintegrating into that fourth, fifth, sixth density perspectives, you are able to reintegrate a much greater perspective of what it is that you are and choose not simply an outcropping of probabilities and archetype blueprints that are in front of you, but choose that energy where you can step forward and create an experience that is outside of even that which is blueprinted in that initial construct to begin with. Remember, all of these things that you are perceiving that are probable future and probable past incarnations are only one probability that your oversoul counterpart, known as the twin soul, is created. By stepping into that archetype, you've already changed the archetype as well. The higher fractal consciousness knows this. It only gives that blueprint of what your genetics, the position in which you're located geographically, and your parental conditions are. That is all that is needed for that lower fractal consciousness that is only integrated slightly outside, or that which is reintegrated fully and understands the entirety. For that fractal consciousness, it holds no matter the amount of probable incarnations that are within each oversoul would quite deeply feel like an entire and indefinite form of probabilities to choose from. The further you are in your higher fractal consciousness, the more that you see. These levels are in fact finite, but each possibility holding unlimited parameters within its construct itself. We thank you for this. We also wish to express that we will take 1 to 2 queries before disconnecting for this day.
Excellent. Thank you for that. And we'll find a few more questions for you.
Yes, of course.
Okay. This one is from Lena, and she says, I've just had a series of really transformational ayahuasca ceremonies, first of which was difficult and draining. Could you please elaborate on what process happened there and what this ceremony meant energetically? Thanks and much, much love.
Yes, of course. First of all, as you are entering the ayahuasca energy, you are co-creating with a second density collective form. That collective form is the greater ayahuasca collective consciousness. that consciousness holds a co-creative level with each individual consciousness at a different form of co-creative energetic understanding. Now, of course, when it works with the same human twice, it will affect that same human differently in each iteration. The co-creational level of your intention at that moment holds part of the parameter of that co-creation, yet your own consciousness and the state of vibration within hold another level of that energy. Although the intention may match that vibrational field, its own desire to share that gift with you of its own collective form will be different from time to time as well. In that way, it may appear to be a great guide to you. It may appear to be a part of your greater guidance collective as well, and find the blind spots within the areas of consciousness that you are unaware. It also works to attune the body into the vibrational frequency of co-creation with the greater theme at hand and the greater theme at mind, with the co-creational level. If it is your emotional complex that needs to be worked upon, where the heart needs to expand and the fear decrease within your consciousness and the level of self-introspection grow, then it is working upon all of those levels, co-creating not only that for you, but its own desire to share those gifts in very unique ways. And the co-creation for you in this time was to help attune your body and consciousness together. Now, it is not abnormal for humans to feel tired, wiped out, as it were, in those forms of co-creations, but for you it was slightly more than it may be in your future, because that energy of your own higher fractal consciousness and intention, as well as their co-created form of energy, desired to bring the body up into the level in which that vibration internally exists, and with that vibration to work with the heart chakra and the mental body in the readjustments it required and what your higher self and guides desired. Then, of course, it closes that co-creation in that finer attunement as well. This is what you experienced in this way. This is what you will experience with different format at the forefront. And when your mental body and heart become the only focus and not to readjust the attunement to be greater in the body, although still creating with that effect of attuning the body, it will co-create at a much less draining level for you. And in some ways, although the body may be tired, the level of energy may boost immediately after sleeping and waking from that energy in your next proportionate co-creation. We thank you for this. And of course, we will take the final query for this day.
Excellent. Thank you, Aradif.
Yes, of course.
All right. So bringing up our final question for the evening. Let's see. All right. This is from Kara. And Kara asks, can you go into detail around exactly what happened when I was around 1 year old, when I almost left this incarnation? Did I have an NDE? What was my original purpose? And how has it changed? And what angel helped me? With love and gratitude, Kara.
Yes, of course. Now, what occurs in this experience of your life was what is known as a probable exit point. Now, of course, before entering your physical body, there was an intention to live a short life, to be out of your physical body within the first 3 possibilities. 1, hours after birth. 2, after you are 1 and 3, within the age of 3.5 years of age. And all of those were considered both appropriate and exciting for you to understand living as a human in those short terms and living as a human in co-creation. But what occurred that changed in that moment was your own understanding of the effects that would have occurred with those that were around you and that loved you. You desired to have that experience, but knew that you could take another experience and utilize it in that life. Now, of course, as you are integrated into the 1-year-old body, more of your higher self is in touch with the consciousness within your physical body. You have greater access to the levels of your telepathic region. But of course, the energy that is from physical transformative communication is not developed in that way. But intuitively and empathically, you understood that an earlier death in this incarnation would not be as great of an abstract form of your own incarnation, and creative effects upon your family members would be more grave in that way. So in that way, you worked with your guides, and you worked to remove your own portion of consciousness from that exit point. Now, the detailed forms of that energy and what exactly occurred are not clear, and that is because your 1-year-old consciousness did not hold the ability to keep a greater memory. It is only through your consciousness that you hold in this part of your incarnation that was even able to access the form of understanding something great did occur in that experience. So what we can share with you as reflected from your higher self and from the greater form of that memory is that your guides worked with you to alleviate your desire to go out of that experience. And in that expression, this shows you the power of your free will against your own blueprinted outcome for your experience. Yes, you can have the exact blueprint that you desire when living your incarnation. And yes, you can change drastically the reason why you came here for the benefit of a new ideology or new perspective of excitement. And sometimes you are able to do both, and that in this case is exactly what you did. We wish to express to all of you that as we have co-created with you in this evening, we are perceiving that collective portion of energy and the individual fractal of your own conscious energy in which we have never perceived previous. And to that point, as all of us are one, we are able to perceive those parts of our own consciousness that we have yet to perceive. This means that you are growing. This means that as we have co-created with you in this day, we have grown as well. We wish to congratulate you for the growth and expansion, and we wish to thank you for ours as well. We also wish to bid you adieu, Tyler, for this evening. And not only are all of you loved, but we love you as well. Adieu.
All right. How's it going? How'd everything go?
It went great. Thank you for that, Rob. That was the first time I've experienced your channeling this up close and personal. As very fun to be a part of. I have to say that was thoroughly enjoyable.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, brother, because I want to do this more with you, and I want to be able to get together with you and do some channeling work together with everybody else and everybody in the chat. Hello. Hey, Tasha, I see you there too. Hello, how's it going? Yeah, thank you guys for coming tonight. Thank you, brother, for coming tonight. And I do want to remind all of you in Patreon on the 5th, I'll drop the post for the Q&A so that at the 30th of next month, you guys can put your questions in. I'll also put up suggestions, and in the comment section, just put your suggestions. And then on the 10th, we put those suggestions up for a vote. And on the 15th, we'll do the in-depth topic that you guys choose. And then next month on the 30th, we'll channel the Q&A, and we'll do it that way. And if you guys haven't been in Patreon before, you can always check that out, patreon.com/etwhisperer. And please go check out Tyler's stuff too. Tyler's amazing dude, an amazing channeler, and he's very awesome. I'm going to make sure those links that are in the description go into the pinned comment so you guys can click on them instead of just look at how pretty they look. And make sure you guys have access to that. And thank you again, brother, for being here with you tonight. It's really amazing to have you here. Your channeling was really amazing, and I really appreciate you coming in and helping our Patreon squad. And I really enjoyed our time together, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. Me as well. This was a beautiful, unexpected, a doorway into my evening, and very grateful that this is how I get to journey into this new chapter, with some great collaborative channeling and this wonderful, warm community. I got to say, all the questions were really nice, and just interacting with the audience was also very pleasing.
Oh yeah, well, this is one thing I've always said. The people who show up for the ET Whisperer Patreon are absolutely amazing, and just everyone who's ever been a part of any live stream that we've done, whether it's the radio show or channelings or whatever, we always get an amazing bunch. I think the people who are here are deep desire to explore the consciousness behind channeling and their own consciousness, and together that's a hell of a winning combination, I think.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Getting all right, here we go. Check out this math equation, everybody. All right, and check out that one, and check out that one. You guys are good. I really love you guys, and I want to say, Dawn, thank you too for sharing that. It's actually the people who were here live with us on Patreon tonight. They pay to get these extra 2 channelings every month. They actually said, "Hey, you could make this public," because I said, "Dude, I think this would be really great to share publicly because Tyler's with us, and this is the first time we've had him on the Patreon crew." And they all said, yes, we think it should be collective too. So it wasn't me alone that thought of it. Tyler wanted to do it. All of our Patreon people did. So thank you guys from Patreon too for letting us share this out.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to be able to share this information, and it's nice to know that this will live on the internet for people to find. I think that always makes it incredibly exciting.
Yeah, and I'm gonna retitle it too and put a different thumbnail on so that people will know what's actually happening here. I first just labeled it for our Patreon people, and then I put duo channeling exclamation. But so we'll figure out a better title for it. But I'm glad it exists there too, and I'm glad all of you guys were here today, and of course you too, brother. But I am beat. It's 1:03 in the morning. I did not expect to be doing this tonight that late, but with Tyler saying yes that he would come tonight and that he would channel on top of coming and just hanging out, there was no way I could pass it up. So I love you guys. Thank you guys for being here. Check out the pinned comment, which will have Tyler's links on there. And then our Patreon links are everywhere. You can go to the website and get that, or just patreon.com/etwhisperer. If you want to check out Patreon. And those of you who are here from YouTube and Facebook, thank you guys for showing up. YouTube's been treating me a lot better lately. They've been tweaking the algorithms and letting this information get out to more people. And I know it's not directly just me, it's everybody. They've loosened the reins. So if you used to YouTube and you quit because you weren't getting out to anyone, try again. There's a formula, and I shared it on Facebook, that formula to get out more on YouTube too. And we just hit 15K subscribers just a few weeks ago out of the blue, and we live streamed for that one too, because it's amazing. The channeling community is growing. The receptiveness of the internet is finally opened back up, like the old Wild West days where we used to be able to throw a video on and random people from countries who never heard of channeling could see it. And I love it. I really love it. And you being here, brother, puts the cherry on top of the cherry that's on top. So thank you, brother.
Oh yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, it's delicious channeling ice cream, and it's got all the good flavors.
I love that. You got to coin that trademark hashtag, put it on a shirt, because that's good. I like that. Well, I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight, guys. And thank you for everybody who listens to it later. We'll get clips out of this thing too and put them on some shorts, and maybe make another video with some just channeling on it and put it on the other sites, if like Facebook and whatever. But we'll make sure it's available, and we're going to keep it public. Thank you guys at Patreon too for saying yes. Yeah, thank you, Kim. The like button is part of the algorithm, and I used to be so frustrated when people be like, "Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe," but it's actually built into the algorithm now. So that's part of why more videos are getting seen now. Is because people are doing that. So thank you for that. All right, guys, I'm going to bed. I'm gonna chat with Tyler for a minute here, off air, and then I'm going to bed, guys. So I love you guys so much. Thank you all for being here. Patreon people, be ready for the 5th of the month. Be ready to put some suggestions down and be ready to get your Q&A form filled out for Treb and Ardif. And the rest of you, I'm probably going to be uploading the video on Friday with more galactic channeling. Yeah, so we'll see you guys. We'll be around. I love you guys. Thank you so much. And thanks again, brother, for being here. All right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, brother. All right, guys. Good night. Love you. We'll see you on the other side.